Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Matthew Rao, and it's good to see everybody again. So thanks for spending some time with us as we move on to our next important topic, which is leadership. And leadership is such an important aspect of every organization and even for us as individuals. And if you go into a bookstore and you go into, for example, the business management section, you can just see book after book after book about leadership. And everybody has their own take on what exactly that is. But I'll tell you what, every business organization, every athletic organization, music organizations are always focusing on leadership because leadership is the great lifter. And if we can lift our leadership skills, then it lifts every aspect of the music program. That's why it's so important. One of the things that I think matters so much for us as we discuss leaders is that it's not about necessarily having a title, right? It's not just about being a president or a vice president or the section leader. I think that leadership is something that you do, so a way that you think, a way that you are, and a way that you, in other words, can be. And my definition of leadership is that leadership is inspiring and encouraging others to achieve their full potential. And I really feel that if you live your life that way, focusing on how can I serve others, how can I lift others up, that through that process, you actually lift yourself up and everybody else up. And it's this upward spiral. That's why teaching leadership has become so important to me, because I do believe that leadership isn't a skill that you're born with. It's something that you can learn. And then as you grow as a leader, you can help lead other leaders and empower them. So we're really excited to share our thoughts about leadership and then hear also what you think about leadership. So I'll pass it over to Ardo. What do you think?
Great. So leadership is to me it sounds cliche, but it's someone who just can inspire others to follow them, right? Someone who can set a direction upon which others will follow. So that, and to me, that also means that there are many effective leaders who are positive leaders and many effective leaders who can be negative leaders as well, right? So the choice I think that we all have as humans and in the music program context as musicians and members of an ensemble is like, what kind of leader do I want to be, right? Do I want to be the one? Now it can be because I have a title, I'm a section leader, or I'm a band director or whatever. So that's a different sort of kind of formal leadership. Or am I the kind of leader that leads by like showing up on time or early to help set up and is always prepared and sort of, or it just, am I leading? Maybe I'm not the strongest musician in the room, but I am the kindest person. And I am the most appreciative of my classmates and colleagues. So to me, those are all leaders who help to establish the culture. We've talked about culture, right? So the leaders are the ones who are actually walking the walk to make the place feel the way that we want it to feel. You don't have to be the lead trumpet player or the drum major or anything like that. You just have to be, a person who inspires others to do the same and to follow.
Ardo, I really appreciate what you said about leadership as a choice, and you can lead in a positive manner or in a negative manner. Another
sure.
leadership, yeah.
Right. So I'm sorry. So like we, in an adult context too, you have positive coworkers and you have negative coworkers and you have like great neighbors and you have bad neighbors. And, sometimes the negative ones are the most effective leaders because they tend to drag folks down with them, or like, they want something to be a certain way. And, instead of like being a positive leader and trying to move the bar there, we sort of like get grouchy and complain because it's not the way we want it to be. So we all know those people and we see those people. So like I said, I think it's a choice. Which kind of a leader do I want to be?
Yeah, I've heard it said that leadership is influence, which is another way of saying what you said. And of course, we know leaders that influence negatively and leaders that influence in a positive way. And this is why it's so powerful to realize that you have a choice. What's important to you? What values matter to you? What kind of band do you want to have? And how you choose to lead is going to have a ripple effect on how others respond to you. And so if going in a positive trajectory and lifting others along with you is important, then you're going to choose and look to find a way to lift others and, like, as you said, inspire others. So that's beautiful. Justin, what are your thoughts on leadership?
Well, Arto, I loved what you said about that, and I want to go off of that a little bit in the sense that I think sometimes the concept of leadership can be paradoxical and elusive, to all of the members of an organization as opposed to the ones who emerge as leaders. In the sense that I think when someone is identified as a leader, all too often other members of the organization therefore assume they are not leaders. You have established yourself as a leader. You are the band director. You are a section leader. So I'm just going to follow you. And following is definitely something that happens in life. But I think, for all of you students that are listening to this, what we sincerely hope as directors is that you can each and every one of you find a way to be a leader in your community. And I think that's absolutely what Arto was saying. Somebody who's not necessarily a band president or a section leader can still be a community leader by fully embodying and representing one of the values in that culture. Again, taking the word culture to mean a set of shared values. I mean, anyone can represent any one of those values. And it's kind of when everyone becomes a leader in their own way that it feeds back into that culture, and you just feel such an incredible sense of community.
Yeah, Justin, I fully agree with that. And one of the words you brought up was about being a follower as well. And I want to emphasize that every role matters, and that every leader, every good leader, is also a great follower. In fact, leadership begins with that, right? And in fact, we all have changing roles throughout the day, including all of us on the screen. There's time where, just like in music, right? When you have the melody or a solo, it's time to come out and shine and lead. But then there's other times where you just need to get in there and support and work with others and lift others up. And so I think being a fantastic follower and living the values of the organization matters just as much. And so it's just, I love the analogy with music, right? Like harmony and melody. And you don't always want to just be one, right? It's so great to be that rhythmic or the bass support. And in life, we also get to play different roles. So I think that matters as well. Let's kick it over to Allie.
Thanks. In addition to what everybody has said, I also see leadership as a continuous series of actions, whether they are big actions like, a section leader running a 45-minute rehearsal with just their section on, field show music or major scales, whatever it is. Or it could also just be someone at the end of rehearsal grabbing a piece of paper on the floor and sticking it in the recycle bin. And I think that every time an action like that in a positive way is done or performed, the person who's leading might not have any idea that anybody's watching or notices, but 9 times out of 10 somebody will. And I think if we're all looking at our organizations in a big picture way, the more we can do, I think the more little kind of like moments like that kind of define who we are as our character. I think the more great little moments like that collectively together, that's what creates the culture and propels it forward. And I think that those are the messages we want to be sending to each other, that even by picking up that piece of paper that deserves to be in the recycle bin, like that means you're respecting your room and your space, and you want to leave a place better than you found it, physically and metaphorically.
Ms. Lacasa, I love that idea that leaders show the way and model the way, and they don't need to have the credit, right? You just do what's right, and because it's the right thing to do. And if nobody sees it, absolutely fine, right? It's not, leadership isn't about glory. And we learn so much by just following a role model. And I think that's really the most important way to lead, is to do the right thing. And hopefully others will follow. And in the end, you need to realize that the only person you can really control. So leadership is not about control, right? Leadership is about who you are, what you broadcast, your values, and how you choose to influence others. But it's not about controlling others. And just remember the phrase from Gandhi: be the change you want to see in the world. And I think that's just so important. That focus on being the best you. Let's kick it over to Mr. Cassidy.
Yeah, so I love everything that's been said, and it's totally in alignment, of course. What I do want to touch upon is, like, and you kind of said this a little bit, Matthew, being a leader, you're leading, you're given that title, or if you're not given that title, it's through those actions. At the same time, though, I don't want to be, as a band director, a leader who is just in front of a whole bunch of compliant students either. And people that compliancy is not leading, if you will. But I think sometimes people, like, especially you at home that are high school kids, you think, okay, this is my teacher. I'm just going to do what they tell me to do. This is my coach. I'm going to do what he or she wants me to do. It's not compliancy. It's still collaborating. It's still even pushing back. That's still okay on someone that's a quote unquote leader. Along with this, I love that people have been using the word empowerment. And I think about this a lot when I came down to a lot of ensembles that I've observed down here in Massachusetts and things like that. There's a difference for me when it comes to leadership styles between empowering versus being hard on someone. Okay, you have high expectations of a student of an ensemble. Those students are going to be empowered to reach those next level of expectations. Whereas if you're leading where you're really hard on someone, you're just like pulling out all like the stuff they're not doing correctly, you're not following directions, you're not doing this, it's going to, people are going to follow that leader out of fear. I'd rather have us follow a leader because you want to feel empowered and part of something that's even greater than what the actual task is at hand. So I think that's one thing I want to think about too. And I also, when it comes to being like a human being, as a student, you want to feel valued, cared for, and supported by your teacher. As a teacher, by their administration, they want to feel valued, cared for, and supported. I think the human condition, we just want to feel that way. I think leadership, as a leader, regardless if you have a role, a specific direct title, or just leading by your actions, that's really something to keep in mind. Because again, we're trying, as Dr. Arau said, we're trying to lift up not only the people in front of us, but the organization. I think it transcends all of that.
Well, I'm so glad that you emphasize the word empowerment. I actually think that's one of the highest forms of leadership as we climb like the ladder of different levels of leadership. I think that empowerment and leading leaders and giving voice to those you lead is so important. There's lower levels of leadership, which I call authoritarian, which we've all seen that in action, which is really that do this, right? Shouting orders. The next level for me is a much more kinder, benevolent leader, which is saying like, would you do this? You know, treating them more human. But the next level for me is modeling and doing it with them and showing them how to do it. And then a higher level for me is also saying, what would you like to work on? What's important to you? And valuing their opinion and their response. And as you said, make it collaborative. And then for me, that the highest form of leadership is where leaders lead leaders. And this is where we empower, we delegate, we trust enough to say like, hey, I believe in you, that you have within you the skills and the potential to make this happen. So I think that's really important. Arda, did you want to jump in, or Justin, did you want to jump in and add something? All good?
No,
Yeah,
well, I think, well, one thing I was going to say, just to Matthew, to your point there too, so in my role, where I'm not, necessarily directly having my hands in programs and culture, where I feel like we, and Jared, same thing in your role too, like it's putting the right people in place to do the work that's going to then create the culture, right? It's the way we hire, it's the way we recruit folks to come in and work with students. Same way that a band director or ensemble director select their section leaders, right? You're looking for the people who are going to help you establish the culture that you envision for the group, and then getting out of their way, right? Putting good people in place and not micromanaging. And when you do delegate, you delegate and you let good people do good work.
All right, fantastic. Well, we're going to wrap up this session on leadership. This is a topic that we can continue to grow and learn every day. We never stop learning leadership, just like you never stop learning music. There's no ceiling. Nobody ever says like, I've mastered music, I'm done. And leadership is one of those things too, where you never say like, I'm the perfect leader, right? Because it's an art and we're dealing with people and it can be challenging. And I actually personally think that student leadership is the most difficult form of leadership, to lead your peers. And so I want to just share that with you. I know it's a challenge, but it's worth studying, investing, and growing in. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Bye.